Greetings. Today's video book review is focused on a 2017 nonfiction work by Seth Davidowitz entitled Everybody Lies: Big Data, New Data, and What the Internet Can Tell Us About Who We Really Are. In this book, Mr. Davidowitz seeks to introduce his readers to an abundant and readily available new data source, found within and among common Internet search terminology. Davidowitz sets the stage in his book by citing the failure of pollsters at predicting the outcome of the 2016 presidential election and offering his hypothesis that American voters essentially lied to the pollsters, causing an error in their predictions. He then attempts to retrospectively review Internet search data surrounding the electoral timeframe and compare it broadly with regional voting patterns, attempting to draw meaningful and valid correlations between the two. Davidowitz then uses this shaky proof to create a broader sense of Internet search data validity, and then boldly moves on to focus on human behaviors and traits. In one example, he discovers search data surrounding racial jokes and extrapolates this discovery, indicating that he believes this means the American people are becoming increasingly racist and routinely lying about it. In all of these topics, Davidowitz makes no attempt to hide his obvious personal bias, speaking reverently of the Obama administration, disdainfully of the Trump administration, citing search data to prove that Christians are hypocritical and that the Muslim religion is getting a bad rap. Agree or not with any or all of these perspectives, the bias of this author and researcher is clear. My background is in healthcare administration and quality, including data analytics. As I read this book, I repeatedly caught myself considering that this author's Internet search data terms and extrapolations was supported with little actual evidence. It occurred to me that if this type of evidence was submitted to those in my profession who are attentive to careful analysis, the conclusion this author draws would be disregarded, at least in the form presented in this book. I understand that Davidowitz was not specifically writing to a scientifically minded audience who would be focused on clear data validity studies and bias elimination techniques, however. To that end, and for my own peace of mind, I began to research what, if any, validity behind such data actually exists. My research led me to an article written in 2012 for the Economic and Social Research Council by Jonathan Meghan of Oxford University. Meghan writes about their research project where they retrospectively considered search data from 2004 to 2010 and compared it to Gallup Poll's most important problem, to check on validity. The question this research project attempted to answer surrounded whether or not Internet search data could be generalized to broadly reflect the view of the public. Meghan concludes, quote, "Many potential search measures were rejected because an examination of the search terms within them show that they were unlikely to reflect the importance of an issue the person was actually searching. Picking a plausible search term and examining its trends is insufficient to make claims about the general public," unquote. Instead, the research concluded that in order to use Internet search data, it is critical to first test the validity of Internet search measures. The best chapter in this book is the last one. Davidowitz finally tips his hat to the weakness of his theory, acknowledging the difference between causation and correlation. In fact, he acknowledges that his data cannot really be used to support investments or other high-stakes decisions. It is just not valid and reliable enough. Although this concession is refreshing, Davidowitz never really goes any further or considers any of his previously mentioned assertions in light of this understanding. Finally, he does mention the scientific hierarchy of evidence, paying lip service to the need to eliminate bias and validate data that is collected before it can be generalized and considered sound. He finally acknowledges that all he really learned is that Internet search data is Internet search data. Maybe it correlates to something and maybe it doesn't. He acknowledges that more research is needed, and if I am to read any more on this topic, the data analytics, including purposeful elimination of researcher bias, will have to be much more clearly demonstrated than this author and book was able to provide. And this concludes my book report on the book Everybody Lies by Seth Davidowitz.